the US it's a place full of events, some nice ones, some not so nice. It's US. It's too big to be just beautiful or just to be ugly. It's just impossible to reduce to one adjective.
I love your
So,
diplomatic skills here. Like the way you are phrasing it, it's really nice. Full of
so
accents.
I'll be popular in the US at least for one reason. So you are seeing things firsthand, and I'm very interested in how are you perceiving what's going on in America, especially in universities, because from Europe we can see things on the internet, we can hear from friends, but you are there, and you are not just there. You go and talk to them, so you are the right person to tell the audience what's going on.
Again, whenever I talk to people, I always say, you don't need to believe me. And what I am trying to encourage people is to think for themselves, So if you question something I say, go after it yourself. What I can tell you is that I'm definitely less diplomatic than you are in general. And even though since I've moved to the US, which has been now 8 years ago, my language softened, but I'm still a very Eastern European non-PC person. So that causes me a lot of trouble in that sense. But to answer your question, what we are seeing in the US, specifically focusing on campuses, it's not something new. So what we see today is, a heightened attention given to the campuses, but we had these things prior to October 7th. Yeah, we didn't have these encampment setups, but we did have Apartheid Week where they were saying, death to the Jews, death to the Zionists on Columbia campus in particular. I attended the Apartheid Week there not once, and they even refused to talk to me as a non-Jew simply because I have talked to a Jew before asking them. And so for me, those were all wake-up calls, how there is zero intention to have a dialogue. And, me as an activist, I went through my own kind of like waves. In your 20s, you want to change the world and you are okay to be aggressive and loud. And you believe that the more loud you are, the better your chances to convince the other person. But then with age, you mature and you understand, it's not how it works. It's a lot of psychology. So for the last couple of years, I spent so much time really meeting with people who think totally differently than I am. And we had heavy conversations. In fact, since I moved to Boulder, I met a person who is from Gaza City, and we spent 3 hours locked in a car, both of us really, really trying hard to have a conversation. Even though he is in the US, he's still really not having a good opinion about Israel. And I'm not going to, disclose more about his private life out of respect. But he is really not friendly towards Israel, but he has no problem with Jews per se in America. That was one of the hardest and toughest 3 hours of my life, but I appreciated that he also tried and I also tried. And then October 7th happened, and my appetite for this kind of heavy conversation definitely shrinked and almost disappeared at one point, because I can say about myself, like I felt so much frustration, anger, even hatred, how people really question what went down on October 7th and how this whole got twisted. And it's troubling because you lose your faith in humanity. And, I'm not even Jewish, but I'm a vocal Zionist. So most often than not, people assume that I am Jewish. Like on Instagram, most of the comments would be towards me as a Jew. Go back to Poland, you dirty Jew, and so on and so on. So I do feel this hatred and Jew hatred on my own skin, even though I'm not Jewish. And just 2 days ago, I actually gave 2 lectures at the University of Denver. And then I did go out and checked out the tents, which now already, are here in Denver. And I had a conversation with one fellow who is a big supporter of this encampment, so seemingly anti-Israel. And since October 7th, this was the first conversation where I was okay to have the deep conversation. This guy and myself, we disagreed on most of the things, but he at least tried to listen. He didn't scream, he didn't yell, he didn't, go violent. And here is my takeaway. Literally, he spelled out that the IDF is or was partaking in October 7th. And he feels nothing is wrong with this statement, which is literally to going along the lines when, they said that 9/11 was an inside job of Israel and the Jews. So basically, October 7th has the same kind of ideology around that Israel created this in order to wipe out Gaza. And there you are standing and you're like, whew, what is the right answer? So my answer was, that first of all, is extremely far-stretched assumption. And also everything of this is going against the Jewish values. Jews value life. And the Jewish communities are still struggling to get to the same level of population as they were before the Shoah. So no Jewish community in their right mind would sacrifice this amount of people for something of that. And that would also require you to glorify death for something so it's everything is going against the Jewish values with this assumption. The other thing that we can see on college campuses, is here, not in Denver, but in New York, for example, the violence and how it is normalized. But it comes a lot from social media and how we normalized hatred and open violence and the call for violence against Jews and Zionists and their allies for years. It's been for years that, things on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter could circulate that people are literally showing you how to stab a Jew. And that was okay to be on these platforms. So this younger generation grows up with this normalized hatred. And then, the first moment they get a chance, they put this on the street as well. And this is why they are so kind of brave to say, you should be killed. And they say it into the face of a Jew in New York City without fear and consequence, a fear of consequences. How we got here, obviously, it's manifold, starting from the hijacked education system, which again is not an anecdote, it's a proven fact, how much money Colombia and others got from Qatar and countries which from a Western point of view are absolutely not aligned with those values that we fought for and our parents fought for. So that is in and of itself a problem. And then add to that this new generation's attention span, which is around 3 to 5 seconds. So they don't go into the details. They hear the good slogan like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Which river, which sea, nobody cares. It sounds good. I'm gonna be famous by saying this. And with this, we go to the third big thing, the psychological effect on this, because today's generation, if you ask them, what do you want to be? Most of the 19/20 something years old are going to say, I want to be famous. I want to be rich and famous. It's not like I want to be a lawyer or a doctor like our parents. No, I want to be famous. How can you be famous today? If you're riding the waves of the given algorithm and the given trends. So today, tearing down a poster of the kidnapped kids made you famous. And they don't care how they are getting famous for or what they are getting famous for. And also this generation, as opposed to yourself and myself, they grew up with such a level of comfort that most of them don't even understand. So in America, I really am having a hard time with this discussion over privileges, because here the privilege is primarily between white people and people of color. But myself, who grew up in under the Soviet Union as a white person, I don't find myself privileged. So for me, the biggest privilege in the world is to be an American. And they don't even know it yet, or this generation at least. Their biggest problem is, which of the latest iPhones to get and when, which college to attend, which car to get. And so it's a problem because they don't have anything higher than themselves to fight for. And every smart psychologist have, and rabbis also talk a lot about this. Unless you have something bigger than you in your life to work towards, you're going to be lost. Hence the depression and so on. So these people now, these young people saw a cause which from the outside seems so easy. There are poor kids who are dying in Gaza. obviously your heart goes out to those civilians and the kids, but they did not go into the cause and casualty effect and, like what caused and how did we get here. And yeah, so this is in a nutshell. I could, give a whole lecture about this, but these three main pillars, in my opinion, are a big problem that we are seeing with the young generation.
Yeah, there's a lot of contradictions. Like if you examine what is the structure behind the society they want to put in place, the educational system, even social media, how they are used as a tool. It's full of paradoxes. It's like again, we can give a whole lecture about it. And I will give an example here from Ireland. So there's a football team here, football as we think in Europe, no, not soccer, which is a word I hate as a big football fan. Like all the football teams here are very much pro-Palestinian or pro-Hamas without them knowing. But some are more than others. The one that is really, really keen on justice and equality and all these slogans, brainless slogans, is a team called Bohemians. So the other day, they scheduled a match between their female football team with the female football team from Gaza. And they say, this is a match for democracy. And it turned out that all this Gaza football team will come up with, not with hijab, but with their faces very much covered. And that's probably one of the symbols of oppression against women. So I don't know, how can they not figure it out that they are not partnering with the right people for that purpose, but they don't see it. And if you call it out, all they will tell you is that you are Islamophobic, that you are a white person who doesn't care about the rest of the world. So I also think that most of these people don't take the time to think what's going on. They just accept what they see on the news. They just assimilate whatever they are told, and life is good. So I think that's a big division between those who take the time to understand things and make their own conclusions. Sometimes they are right, sometimes they are wrong, because they're real human beings, and the robots, automats, who just accept things. And I think most pro-Palestinians are on the latter.
Talking about this face cover, I don't know if you have seen that video in which London, they are asking young women to try on a half hijab and to see and experience it for themselves. And these young girls are happily doing that, and then they are posing in that. And as you said, there is so much contradiction, but also a level of cognitive dissonance that I can't even digest. Like, I don't understand. This young generation, as I said, and I keep on saying, this iPhone example, because it's the truth. When Apple comes out with the latest iPhone, look at them. They are there pre-ordering it like days before, but they would imagine or even consider living in a society where you need to have a hijab, where all you are doing here is shopping for the sexiest clothes ever. And so the other thing on the same merit, at Columbia University, there was an imam when in the heightened moments. And these American kids joined behind him for a Muslim prayer, which in and of itself, before anyone drops again the Islamophobic thing on me, is not a problem. The problem is that it happens on a college campuses under the pretense of free Palestine. And we all know that the statistics show that, in America, the young generation is less and less likely to continue going to the church, let it be Christian, or like in Jewish faith, so much interfaith marriages. So religion is something to look down in this society today. And yet, when it comes to an imam and a Muslim prayer, people are almost like putting it here on a pedestal, like as if, and now it just comes to me, this thought the first time since I'm spelling it out, as if you would need to feel guilty of something